Have you ever wondered why breathing is slowly starting to feel harder and why the effects of climate change never seem to hit everyone the same way?
Or how the small lifestyle choices we make every day quietly shape the environment around us?
Well then, you're in the right place. This is Earthwise,
Or otherwise.
a weekly climate news roundup brought to you by Climate Action Life in collaboration with the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication.
Every week, we bring you climate stories from around the world, along with people's voices, cultural reflections, and small actions that we can all take in our everyday lives.
On this journey, I'm Ritvik.
And I'm Gayatri. Two perspectives, but one shared concern: the planet we call our home.
This is Earthwise or otherwise.
Because the real question isn't just what being Earthwise looks like.
It is also what the cost of choosing otherwise might just be. So now let's begin with our weekly National Climate Check-in, where we break down what's happening across India.
From policy shifts to ground level impact, here's everything you need to know about the country's changing climate story.
Alright Gayatri, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine stepping out at 2 in the afternoon. The sun is directly overhead. The air feels like a hot iron pressing against your skin. Within minutes, your head starts spinning. That is not a horror movie. That's in fact a koala in Maharashtra.
The next report is from the United News of India. On April 15th, the koala recorded 44.2 degrees Celsius. That made it the hottest city on the entire planet that day. And tragically, the city also reported the season's first suspected heat wave related death. An unidentified man found dead inside a goods auto. Police suspected that it was a heat stroke.
Well, let me put that number in perspective. 44.2 degrees Celsius is not just hot, it is dangerous. At that temperature, your body struggles to cool itself. Sweat does not evaporate fast enough, organs start to fail in fact. And here's the scary part. A koala has been crossing 44 degrees Celsius since the second week of April. This is not a spike, Gayatri. This is a trend.
You know, Ritvik, the authorities have also reserved 137 beds for heat stroke cases across government and rural hospitals. They have stocked up on ORS and medicines, but beds and ORS do not prevent death. They just catch you after you fall. What we need is prevention. What do you think is the Earthwise solution, Ritvik?
3 things, Gayatri. 1. Every city above 40 degrees Celsius needs a heat action plan with cool roofs, shaded bus stops, and public drinking water. Number 2, employers of outdoor workers, say construction, delivery, street vending, must be legally required to give rest breaks and water. And number 3, early warning systems must reach the last mile. Not a WhatsApp forward, not a phone call, a door knock.
Because otherwise, and this is not an exaggeration, heat waves will become our new normal and the most vulnerable will die first. Well, the call to action to this is, if you live in a heat wave prone area, create a family heat plan today. Identify the coolest room, stock ORS packets, check on elderly neighbors every afternoon, and never leave a child or a pet in a parked car. Not even for 5 minutes.
You know, Gayatri, not all climate stories are about weather. Some are about industry, safety, and the hidden cost of energy. And this one particularly hurts a lot. This report is from The Wire, India.
You know, on April 14th, around 2:30 p.m., a boiler tube blasted at the Vedanta Limited power plant in Chhattisgarh's Sakti district. 20 people died, 36 were injured, and here's how it happened. The pipe bursted and superheated steam at around 600 degrees Celsius. That is hotter than molten lead. It fell on workers who were having lunch. Some were just walking in the open spaces. They did not stand a chance at all.
One of the workers, Mr. Ajit Naskar, told The Wire that he was at the height of 17 meters. Suddenly, he heard a blast and there was smoke everywhere. He hid inside a cupboard. 40 to 50 people were doing painting work at that time. A cupboard saved his life. Others were not so lucky. The blast was caused by excessive fuel accumulation, leading to immense pressure in a pipe, a technical failure that should have been prevented.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced rupees 2 lakh for families of the deceased. Chhattisgarh CM announced rupees 5 lakh. An FIR has been filed against 8 to 10 management individuals. A magisterial inquiry is underway, but money does not bring back the lives of 20 people. And here is the climate angle to this. Industrial disasters like this are not separate from environmental justice.
Gayatri, when safety protocols are ignored, both workers and the surrounding environment pay the price, no? Earthwise solution to this, you may ask? Number 1, independent safety audits for all major thermal power plants. Not just internal ones, but all of them. Number 2, criminal liability for management when negligence leads to death. And number 3, a public database of industrial accidents so the citizens know which companies cut corners.
Because otherwise, Ritvik, and this is the part that really haunts me. The next blast will not make headlines. It will just be another statistic. Well, the call to action to this is, ask your local MLA or MP one question. When was the last independent safety audit of the power plant in our region? Do not let them dodge the answer. Do not let them get away with this.
Okay, Gayatri, tell me this. Have you ever smelled burning garbage?
No, that sounds very strange, but go on.
Well, the smell of burning garbage stays in your clothes for hours. Now, imagine an entire city wrapped in that smell for days. Sounds horrific, right? But this city is not too far from where we live. It is in our very own Delhi NCR, Gurgaon. The following report is from Indian Express, and this is an elaboration of the same.
On April 15th, a huge fire broke out at the Bandwari landfill. 12 fire tenders, including private ones from DLF, M3M and Maruti, battled the blaze. But the smoldering embers kept reigniting through Friday. The fire was only fully out by Saturday evening.
Dr. Preetpal Singh, the Joint Commissioner of MCG, explained that between April to June, such fires happened due to a rise in temperature and methanization of the site. Methanization is when decomposing organic waste produces methane, a highly flammable gas. So basically, landfill is a ticking bomb every summer.
And here is the scale of the problem, Ritvik. 17.93 lakh metric tons of legacy waste still sits at Bandwari. The target to clear it? Well, that's March 2027. Last April alone, there were 4 separate fire incidents at the same site. Ruchika Sethi Thakkar, founder of Clean Air Bharat, told the Indian Express, for the last 2 days, the city has been under a blanket of smoke. Such incidents are inevitable.
The Supreme Court had already asked for an affidavit on timelines to clear this waste. And yet, here we are. Again, what's the Earthwise solution, you may ask? Well, number 1 is mandatory. We need to segregate wet and dry at source in every municipality. Number 2, decentralized waste processing and not one giant landfill. And number 3, fines for bulk waste generators. Apartments, malls, industries, whoever does not process their own organic waste must be fined.
Because otherwise, Ritvik, and this is not an exaggeration, every April we will watch the same fires, breathe the same smoke and ask the same question. Why has nothing changed?
Well, the call to action, you may ask? Separate your waste at home. Today, wet for kitchen in one bin. Dry, that is plastic or paper, in another. Landfill fires start when organic waste meets flammable materials.
Movies, music, fashion, social media trends, we consume all of it every day. But have you ever paused to think about the environmental footprint behind these choices?
Well, let's bring this conversation down to the ground with our Vox Pop segment.
To explore these questions further, our climate crew has been out and about speaking directly to people on campus.
Pratha Nayak and Samagra Thakur have been engaging with students, young audiences and everyday listeners,
trying to understand how pop culture choices quietly shape the way we think about climate.
So, over to you both.
आज हमने लोगों से पूछा, do you think social media is helping fight climate change or just turning it into a trend?
In my opinion, social media is helping fight climate change. It's largely beneficial for climate change. In my personal experience, I've learned a lot about urban planning, a lot about climate-friendly urbanism through YouTube, through Instagram, and through social media in general. Also, not just that, I've learned a lot about local climate change activism and local climate-related issues. For example, I'm from Bangalore, and there are a lot of channels that talk about climate-related issues. That's really helped me learn more about climate change. So yeah, I think social media is really beneficial because it encourages the spread of information and people are just more connected. And I think that's the most important part of climate change.
Yes, of course. I strongly believe that social media is helping fight climate change and it's not just turning it into an aesthetic trend. Because think about it. Before platforms like, say, Instagram or X, climate conversations were just limited to, say, classrooms, conferences, or policy discourses. But today they are everywhere. They're more accessible. And this awareness is not just restricted to staying online. It actually does translate into real world action because take Fridays for Future, which was started by Greta Thunberg. So what began as only one girl posting her school strike, that actually turned into a global movement across more than 100 countries. And that was largely because of social media amplification and mobilization. So yes, nowadays people, they do post aesthetic, eco-friendly content online. But if you think about it, even that has a lot of value because it normalizes sustainable behavior. So when, say, reusable bottles, thrift shopping, plant-based diets trend on social media, they do have the power to influence millions of daily choices. So small changes at scale matter because, as they say, every big change begins at the grassroots level.
On the other hand, there's an aspect of elevating environmental crises and anxiety where, everything you see is bad. And trends like paper straws, or non-plastic straws or everything like that seems very minuscule when you have bigger things like, production, mass production, dietary concerns and all that stuff. So social media does make it seem like it's a trivializing topic.
As journalists, we see how platforms like Instagram and TikTok have turned climate anxiety into climate action. It's no longer just about polar bears. It's about real-time reporting on floods, wildfires, and corporate pollution. This instant connectivity forces brands and politicians to be more transparent because they know the whole world is watching.
Well, now let's take a look at what's happening around the world in climate action.
From global policies to on-ground impact, here's your weekly international climate roundup. Have you ever heard of El Niño, Ritvik?
What is that Spanish word, Gayatri?
It is that Pacific Ocean that messes up with weather everywhere. Well, now imagine El Niño on steroids. Sounds funny, right? The next report is from Carbon Brief and the Los Angeles Times.
Well, meteorologists are warning of a super El Niño, Gayatri, with a 61% chance of emerging between May and June and a 1 in 4 chance that it will be particularly very strong.
Now, what does that mean for us, Ritvik?
It means that global temperatures could break the 2024 record. Extreme weather events on steroids almost, floods in some places and droughts in others.
And in real time, it is already feeding off an extreme marine heat wave off California. Scientists say these warm anomalies are occurring with ever more extreme magnitudes on top of long-term ocean warming. And remember, the US just had its hottest March on record. 10 states broke 131 years old temperature records.
So what can we do? Well, we cannot stop El Niño. It is a natural cycle, but we can stop making it worse. Every ton of carbon dioxide we cut reduces the baseline temperature that El Niño builds on. That means accelerating the shift to renewables, cutting methane leaks, and preparing our cities for what is coming.
Stronger storms, longer heat waves, more unpredictable rainfall, because otherwise, and this is the part that scares all the scientists, a super El Niño on top of already warmed oceans could push us past 1.5 degrees Celsius permanently, years earlier than predicted.
Well, what's the call to action, you may ask? Prepare your home for extreme weather this summer. Clean your gutters, know your nearest flood safe zone. Buy a small power bank and talk to your neighbors. Resilience is a team sport and not an individual one.
What if I told you, Ritwik, that one of our biggest allies in fighting climate change has switched sides? The next report is from the World Ocean Observatory.
Africa's forests have undergone a shocking reversal. Before 2010, they were carbon absorbers, pulling CO2 out of the air, helping us breathe easier. After 2010, they became carbon emitters. The second largest rainforest in the world, the Congo Basin, is now adding carbon to the atmosphere instead of removing it.
Heavy deforestation in tropical regions has led to massive biomass losses, far outweighing any regrowth elsewhere. Forests were one of our last big natural allies. Now, instead of helping us, they're making things worse. That is really not a small problem, Ritwik.
So what is the Earthwise solution, Gayatri? Well, first, the world needs to pay countries to keep forests standing. Serious climate finance, not small donations. Second, we need to stop importing products linked to deforestation. Palm oil, beef, soy, timber. And third, support local communities who protect forests. They are the best guardians.
Because otherwise, and this is the part that keeps ecologists awake, we can lose one of the only cheap natural technologies for carbon removal. No machine invented yet can replace a single acre of old growth forest.
The call to action for this is that check the products you buy. Is there a certification like FSC for wood or RSPO for palm oil? Vote with your wallet. This is the last one, Gayatri, and it is going to stay with me for a while. The last report is from Carbon Brief.
Heavy rains, flash floods, and landslides struck large parts of Afghanistan earlier this month. Nearly 100 people died. The flooding affected 74,000 people across 31 of 34 provinces. Thousands of homes were damaged. Crops were destroyed. And now, here is the cruel twist.
Afghanistan is ranked 176th out of the 187 countries on the Global Adaptation Index, one of the most climate vulnerable nations on Earth. But since the Taliban takeover in 2021, Afghanistan has been barred from UN climate negotiations and has had very limited access to climate finance.
The numbers, in fact, tell the story, Ritwik. Afghanistan's average temperature has risen from 12.2 degrees Celsius in 1960 to 14.2 degrees Celsius in 2024. More than 75% of 710,000 people displaced within Afghanistan in 2024 fled due to the environmental hazards like drought and flood. Afghanistan's climate plan requested $20.6 billion through 2030, but actual climate aid has fallen from $5.9 million annually to just $3.9 million annually.
One of the Afghan climate delegates said that every year we are losing hundreds of people because of climate change. We are not a part of this process. The Earthwise solution to this is that climate aid should be based on vulnerability and not politics. The international community needs a humanitarian carve-out for the climate finance, separate from political recognition.
Because otherwise, and this is the part that really breaks my heart, the people who did the least to cause climate change will suffer the most, and the world will just look away.
The call to action for this is donate humanitarian organizations working on climate resilience in Afghanistan. Groups like Afghan Red Crescent, and write to your foreign ministry. Ask them to support the climate aid access for vulnerable populations, regardless of political status. Do you promise to do that for us? A city baking at 44 degrees. The hottest place on the planet. A power plant based in Chhattisgarh that killed 20 workers taking their lunch, and a landfill in Gurgaon that burns every April, choking an entire city under smoke. None of this is new. And that is the problem.
A super El Niño bearing down on a planet that is already too hot. Africa's rainforests, once our allies, are now adding carbon to the air instead of removing it. A nation buried under floods, Afghanistan locked out of climate help because of politics. None of this is a technology problem.
We know how to warn people before a heat wave hits. We know how to inspect power plants so boilers do not explode. We know how to separate waste so landfills do not catch fire. We know how to cut methane, protect forests, and send aid to vulnerable countries. The question is not how. The question is why aren't we?
So do one thing this week. Check on an elderly neighbor in this heat. Ask your local official about the last safety audit of a power plant. Separate your kitchen waste from your plastic. Donate to climate relief for Afghanistan. Because otherwise, is not an option we can actually afford.
Today, we did not just look at climate as a crisis, but rather as a series of choices. Choices we see in the news, in boardrooms, in government files, and in our own kitchens.
And with every choice, we pick a direction, either walking with the planet or choosing to ignore it.
This conversation is made possible by Climate Action Live, a youth-driven platform by Madhur Singh that takes climate awareness beyond conversations and connects it to real-world action.
At its core, Climate Action Live creates space for young voices where learning, dialogue, and action all come together.
If you want to be a part of this movement, then do visit the Climate Action Live website and explore how you can contribute.
You can also check out the New Imaginations Research Center at the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication, which works with young scholars to expand stories and perspectives, helping us understand climate and society through new narratives.
So, until next week when we meet again,
keep asking yourself, are you choosing to be Earthwise
or otherwise?